Hello, boxing fans around the world. Welcome to another episode of The Scoop on Talk and Fight, featuring the champ Bola Ray, who has been doing a fantastic job of explaining a very focal point of boxing history involving Black Murderers Row and their uh, critical point in how we transitioned from this kind of weird part in our history to where we are today. It's fantastic stuff, and I'm really looking forward to tonight's episode.
Thanks. Yeah, this is this experience of learning more about that era of boxing, has been not just eye-opening for me, but also heart-wrenching, to say the least. Um, it would be one thing to have been gifted, and not know it, but to see others being rewarded for the very gift that you know that you could do better than them for, would be nothing shy of rage-inducing for me. To see others receiving accolades, notoriety, wealth that you know wholeheartedly that should be yours, and yet you are living just above the poverty line for the sole reason that you weren't born the right color, is justification for me to be nothing shy of concerned. And I think I'm putting it mildly. This is the last, but nowhere close to the least member of the Black Murderers Row fraternity. This is a man who had 229 amateur boxing bouts and won 212 of them. Unfortunately, peaked in the professional boxing ranks during World War II, where there was little opportunity for advancement within his career, but who, over his professional career, beat 9 world champions. 9. Without ever stepping into the ring for a world title shot. My name is Bola Raymond Olubuwale, and this is The Scoop. Born June 4th, 1914 in Madison, Georgia, was one Lloyd Marshall. Well into his teen years, his family made the move to Cleveland, Ohio, and that's where, at the age of 17, he ended up beginning his professional career. Beginning boxing. He took up boxing. Having had an incredible amateur career of, like I said, 229 amateur fights, with 22 being victorious, he turned his attention to his pro ranks, 1936. Now, after coming out of the gates with a loss in the pro ranks, Lloyd dusted himself off and got back to what he does and won the next 12 fights in succession. On his 14th fight, Lloyd was up against Swede Berglund, of which the fight was deemed a draw. Now, he didn't think so, but so be it. The following month, he had another fight against none other than Johnny the Bandit Romero, of which he lost this fight. And this was Lloyd's second loss as a professional, and he was nothing shy of steamed because he genuinely believed that he won both fights. And especially seeing how, even though he was knocked down, he was floored in the 10th round, he felt, Johnny was also floored in the first round, but they didn't count it. And he felt he did enough to win the fight, but then he believed that the sport was genuinely too corrupt, or at least this is the sign of how corrupt it was, and he made the decision for the first time.
Sure.
A former
There we go. Come on, come back.
Am I frozen?
No, you're
Am I
back.
frozen?
You
Oh,
you froze for about 5 seconds. Go ahead.
okay. So I'll go back a little further. Let's see. Lloyd turned professional with John Papke, a former fighter himself, as his manager, and this was a decent fit until the last two fights where a change of management was had. And enter Frank Dolchak, a former Tigers.
Well, I don't know what to say. Damn.
And am I frozen again?
You had frozen momentarily right after you said Detroit Tigers.
Wow. Until all this talking. Okay. Forgive me. I don't see this.
Kick your kid off Netflix, will you?
I'm thinking so. He then had 4 years later, he had a rematch against and won a 10-round decision against Romero. The 5 fights with Frank at the helm proved to be not what Lloyd was looking for, and felt that Frank, did not have or put enough time into his boxing career. So another split, which put him in the hands of one Jimmy Edwards. Now, this is noteworthy because under Jimmy Edwards' management is when Lloyd got mixed up with the mob, and he remained there for the rest of his career. Now, this move was obviously proved to be problematic, but never got him to the well-deserved, recognized world title shot. But he did get to fight 12 former or future world champions, of which he actually beat 9 of them. How is he not worthy of being a world champion with that on his resume? I don't know. The roughest fight I had was Lloyd Marshall. He was a light heavyweight. I lost a decision to him, and he's the only one that knocked me off my feet with a straight right hand in the first round. Charlie Burley. This was a statement after their December 11th, 1942 contest. He had actually dropped him also in the 4th round, but there was no count. Lloyd went on to win that fight by decision, where he won 6 rounds by the ref scorecard. 1 round went to arguably the greatest fighter, pound for pound, ever in the history of sport. And then the remaining rounds were seen as even. In the second of 3 fights with Holman Williams, June 7th, 1944, was an epic finish. It was anybody's fight until the 7th round. And then, when Lloyd Marshall connected with one of his lethal short right hands square on Holman's butt, Holman, after swaying, dropped to the canvas. For the balance of the round, the fight purely was instinct. He absorbed and a lacing. Recovering from the effects of the punch, Williams opened the 9th, slugging instead of boxing. For the 8th, 9th, and part of the 10th, tears ripping, Williams ignored all personal safety rules and carried the fight to his bewilderment opponent. By midway in the 10th, Marshall punishing right hand landed, this time to the body. Williams gasped and partially doubled over, went into a desperate clutch. Now, it appears that he would fall, but you know what? He's durable, and he didn't. But the steam had been gone, and it was a sensational rally after having been on the verge of a knockout at the end. That's how the Oakland Tribune saw this fight, for the most part. While being the duration light heavyweight champion, September 30th, 1944, Lloyd met up against his old foe for the third of three times a charm, seeing how this time his hand was actually raised victorious against none other than Jack Chase. Like, this guy's, he has quite the resume, to say the least. But the most telling fight in his career, in my opinion, has to be his fight, or more importantly, his absolute destruction of the future champion of the world by the name of Ezzard Charles. No one put a beating on Charles like this, not even Marciano. He touched canvas 7 times in 8 rounds.
Wow.
And in the 8th round, the referee mercilessly put a halt to the contest. It was, and this is Ezzard Charles. Nobody has ever done that to him. And this guy wasn't compensated. This guy was not, he's still not in the record books as being a great. Oh, wow. A few things one must take into consideration when looking back in this era of boxing is that, unlike today, where there's 5 recognized sanctioning bodies in the WBO, the WBC, WBA, IBO, IBF. Back in those days, there's only 1. And also, unlike today, where there's 17 weight classes, back in those days, there was only 8. Thirdly, only the champion made that genuine nest egg worthy purse money. Everybody else was just floating along. And these guys never got the opportunity to actually be there. This guy beat champions without anything called acknowledgement or financial compensation. Now, post-1947, well, Marshall's career started to fade and fast, losing half of his fight, mostly by way of knockout. By 1951, his wife convinced him to hang up the gloves for the final time as a fighter. Now, he went on to pursue a career in security and corrections, but he still followed the sport. He still watched the sport. He was an avid fan of up-and-coming fighters. He was incredibly amazed as to how much purse fights future fighters were getting, how big the purses were. And he once commented on Mike Tyson. And Mike Tyson was getting $20 million for one fight. And he said he didn't think that there was that much money in the world. Where would he be able to spend it all?
Wow.
Well, Mike would obviously show him how to spend it all. He did fantastic at that. Remarkably, Lloyd Marshall was inducted into the World Boxing Hall of Fame and lived to see it happen in 1996. The following year, he passed. Now, my heart goes out to the memories of the Black Murderers Row fraternity for having to endure the cruelty of history without anything called compensation. The only thing I think we can do as a collective for them is remember their legacy and keep them in conversation. I don't know what else. I don't know what else we can do. This has been, like I said, an incredibly eye-opening experience, and I guess I'm fortunate to have had the opportunity to actually go down this road. And with that, that's the end of my show. If you like this episode, please hit the like button and subscribe. Don't forget the notification bell. It's your boy Bola. That's the scoop.
Wow, fantastic show again. Out of curiosity, when he retired and he worked in, I think you said security and corrections. Are you talking at he worked at a prison? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
He wasn't
Yes.
he wasn't incarcerated.
He wasn't incarcerated. No.
Okay. All right.
No, he was. Yeah.
I didn't know if you were joking with us or not. All right.
No,
Well, at least
correctional officer.
Right. Okay, that's good. Fair enough. Wow, fantastic stuff. Black Murderers Row. Let's hope someone out there picks it up as a series or a film, because what stories? What stories? Incredible stuff.
I'm telling you, it's amazing what these guys did. Charlie Burley is arguably the greatest fighter of all time, to the point where the greatest fighter of all time, Ray Robinson, was deathly afraid to fight. Actually, all of them. He only fought one of them. And he waited until the guy was out of retirement. He was retired for 2 years before he called him up and fought him. Like, this is Ray Robinson, the guy who destroyed Jake LaMotta. Lloyd Marshall beat up Jake LaMotta. Jake was one of those fighters that didn't mind fighting the Black Murderers Row. Well, you know what? I tip my hat to him because he had the balls to do it. He got beat, but at least he had the balls to do it.
Mm-hmm. Once. Yeah, that's what I was asking you last night after last night's episode, was that peculiar relationship between stepping out of that dark corner, if you will, of the boxing community into the limelight. Was that really controlled by, in this case, the mob? And were there fighters who were working with the mob willing to fight Black Murderers Row? And in this case, you just pointed out there were.
Some, yeah. But not as champions, not as world champions. Jake fought them prior to him winning the world title.
Oh, I see.
Once he won the world title, not a chance.
He kept it.
Well, he went and took it. He went and fought. He beat Ray Robinson, but then Ray Robinson beat him back.
All right, there you go. There's your challenge. The gauntlet's thrown down. You have to produce that movie, man. When you make your millions as a internet star, you can take that $1 million and create a movie.
There you go.
Right on, good stuff. Well, thanks very much, appreciate it, and thank you, good listenership, for staying through those couple of minor technical difficulties we had in the show, but all good and a great ending. And here we are, looking forward to tomorrow night's episode. I don't know how you're going to beat this one, but I'm looking forward to it. We'll see. As our good viewership. All right. Thanks, Ray, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Cheers.